The rhythm of the water is the first thing you notice as the veil of sleep begins to lift, a soft rhythmic lapping of Lake Texcoco against the mud-slicked edges of the Chinampas. It is a sound that has cradled you since your earliest days, the gentle breath of the lake as it moves through the network of canals that weave through the great city of Tenochtitlan. You lie still for a moment on your woven reed mat, the Tlatelolco, feeling the familiar texture of the fibers against your skin. The air in the room is cool, carrying the dampness of the surrounding basin, and you pull your cotton cloak a little tighter, savoring the final moments of stillness before the city fully stirs. Through the small opening of your doorway, the world is a palette of deep indigos and soft greys, the light of the morning star still flickering above the horizon. There is a specific scent that marks this hour, a faint, sweet trail of copal incense drifting on the breeze from the direction of the sacred precinct. It is the smell of the gods waking, of priests tending the eternal fires atop the great temple, and it settles in your lungs with a weight that is both holy and heavy. You think of your father and his father before him, and the lineage of warriors that runs through your blood, like the very water in the canals. To be born a Mexica is to be born into a debt of service, a life defined by the obsidian blade and the roar of the jaguar. As you listen to the distant, muffled sound of a wooden paddle dipping into the water somewhere nearby, you feel the quiet gravity of your own path. You are no longer the child who played with clay figures in the dirt. You are a man of the city of the sun, and the destiny of your people is etched into the very stones of the pyramids that rise like mountains in the distance. Before we journey deeper into the life of the Jaguar Warrior and the secrets of the Aztec world, I hope you are finding a sense of peace as you settle in for the night. You are here with the Slumber Archives, and it is a pleasure to have you with us. We share new immersive history narrations, just like this one every single day, to help you drift into a deep and restful sleep. So if you enjoy these travels through time, please consider subscribing so you never miss a night. A gentle like on the video also helps others find their way to our quiet corner of history. Now, let us return to the awakening city, where the morning mist still clings to the surface of the lake. You rise from your mat, the cool floor of smoothed earth beneath your feet, providing a sharp, grounding contrast to the warmth of your bed. Your movements are slow and deliberate, a silent ritual of preparation. You reach for your loincloth, the Macuahuitl, wrapping the long strip of cotton with practiced ease, feeling the familiar weight and tension of the fabric. Next comes the tilmatli, your cloak, knotted over your right shoulder. It is a simple garment for now, of plain fibre, but in your mind's eye you can already see the vibrant feathers and intricate embroidery that will one day mark your status as a seasoned warrior. If the gods are kind and your heart is strong. You step outside your home and the world expands. The Chinampas, those ingenious floating gardens, are lush and green even in the dim light, their rows of maize and beans and flowers drinking in the morning dew. You walk along the narrow path of packed earth, the smell of damp soil and ripening squash filling your senses. Everything in Tenochtitlan is orderly, a testament to the will of your people, who turned a swampy island into the heart of an empire. In the distance, the great temple, the Templo Maya, begins to catch the first pale hints of the coming sun. Its twin shrines, one painted in the blue of the rain god Tlaloc, and the other in the red of Huitzilopochtli, the god of war, loom over the skyline like silent guardians. You feel a pull toward that center, a magnetic force that governs every aspect of your life. It is there that the heart of the world beats, and it is there that your purpose will eventually be tested. You think of the Calmecac, the school where you spent your youth learning the songs, the histories, and the art of the spear. You remember the cold baths at midnight, the thorns of the maguey plant used in bloodletting, and the long hours spent staring at the stars while the priests explained the turning of the great cycles. It was a hard life, a life of discipline and restraint, designed to forge a spirit as sharp and unyielding as the obsidian that tips your weapons. As you walk toward the main canal, you see the first canoes of the day gliding silently through the water. They are laden with goods, bright tomatoes, bundles of firewood, crates of squawking turkeys, and mats of woven reeds. The boatmen move with a fluid, effortless grace, their paddles barely making a splash. You watch them for a moment, appreciating the quiet industry of your city. This is the foundation upon which the glory of the Mexica is built, not just the gold and the feathers, but the daily labor of thousands of people working in harmony with the lake. You reach the edge of the water and pause, looking out across the vast expanse of Lake Texcoco. The mist is beginning to burn off, revealing the distant causeways that stretch like long, straight fingers toward the mainland. These are the arteries of the empire, the paths through which the tribute of 100 conquered cities flows into your home. You feel a swell of pride, a deep-seated knowledge that you belong to something vast and powerful, something that was willed into existence by the gods themselves. But beneath the pride, there is a quiet, contemplative stillness. You know that the life of a Jaguar Warrior is not just about the roar of battle or the capture of enemies. It is about balance. It is about being as steady as the lake and as fierce as the sun. It is about understanding that your life is a thread in a much larger tapestry, one that began long before you were born and will continue long after you have returned to the earth. The sky is turning a soft, dusty rose now, and the birds in the chinampas are beginning their morning chorus. You can hear the sounds of other households waking, the rhythmic slap, slap, slap of women patting cornmeal into tortillas, the low murmur of voices, the occasional bark of a hairless dog. The city is breathing, expanding, readying itself for the day's demands. You take a deep breath, the air tasting of wood smoke and lake water, and the faint, lingering sweetness of that copal incense. Your body feels light yet powerful, a well-tuned instrument waiting to be played. You think of the Macuahuitl, the wooden sword inset with razor-sharp obsidian blades that rests inside your home. It is not just a weapon, it is an extension of your will, a physical manifestation of the oath you have taken to protect your people and sustain the gods. As the sun finally crests the horizon, bathing the white plastered walls of the city in a brilliant, blinding gold, you turn back toward your home to finish your morning meal. The day has begun, and with it, the continuation of a journey that started generations ago. You are a son of Tenochtitlan, a child of the sun, and the path before you is as clear and certain as the causeways that lead into the heart of the world. You walk slowly, feeling the warmth of the light on your skin, letting the sounds and smells of the awakening city wash over you. There is no rush, no urgency, only the steady, unfolding present. The lake is calm, the gods are watchful, and you are exactly where you are meant to be. The smell of damp earth and wood smoke clings to your simple cotton tunic, a scent that has become as much a part of you as the calluses forming on the palms of your hands. You find yourself standing before the heavy wooden gates of the Telpochcalli, the house of youth, where the sons of the common people are forged into the shields of the empire. There is no fear in this place, only a quiet, rhythmic sense of purpose that hums through the stone floors and the open courtyards. You remember the day your father brought you here, leaving you in the care of the seasoned masters, the veteran warriors who speak in low, gravelly tones of battles fought under distant skies. Since then, your life has been measured not by hours, but by the steady accumulation of strength and the slow, deliberate mastery of your own body. The morning air is crisp, and the stone beneath your bare feet is cold, a grounding sensation that pulls your focus to the present moment. Your first task of the day is one of humble service, a ritual of discipline that cleanses the mind as much as the sacred grounds. You take up a broom of bundled twigs and begin to sweep the vast courtyard of the temple, the rhythmic scuff, scuff, scuff of the bristles against the volcanic rock creating a steady, hypnotic pulse. You move with a slow, sweeping grace, watching the dust motes dance in the shafts of light that pierce through the morning mist. There is a profound peace in this labor, a realization that to defend the gods, one must first learn to care for their home. As the sun climbs higher, the work shifts from the meditative to the strenuous. You and your companions are led toward the outskirts of the district, where massive logs of pine and cedar lie waiting. These are not merely pieces of wood, they are the weights that will build the endurance required to march for leagues across the rugged highlands. You squat low, feeling the stretch in your thighs and the solid press of the earth against your heels, and heave a heavy timber onto your shoulder. The rough bark bites into your skin, a sharp physical reminder of the burden a warrior must carry without complaint. You begin to walk, your footsteps heavy and deliberate. Each stride is a test of balance, a slow motion dance with gravity. You feel the muscles in your core tighten, your breath coming in deep, measured draws that fill your lungs with the scent of pine resin and sweat. There is no race here, no shouting or urgency. The masters watch in silence, their eyes tracing the line of your spine and the steadiness of your gaze. They are looking for the quiet fire, the internal flame that burns steady and low, rather than the flash of heat that fades when the work becomes hard. You focus on the sensation of your feet connecting with the dust, heel, toe, letting the weight of the log become a part of your own center of gravity. In these moments of physical exertion, your mind often wanders back to the lessons of the afternoon, when the physical world gives way to the realm of memory and song. After the logs have been stacked and the midday meal of simple maize cakes and water has been shared in communal silence, you gather in the shade of the long porticos. Here the air is cooler, smelling of old stone and the faint, sweet aroma of drying herbs. You sit cross-legged on the floor, your back leaning against a pillar, and listen to the old men, the keepers of the stories, as they begin to chant. Their voices are like the wind moving through the reeds of the lake, carrying the weight of centuries. They teach you the history of your people, the long migration from the mythical lands of the north, and the divine signs that led your ancestors to this very island. You don't just learn dates or names, you learn the songs of the ancestors, the rhythmic verses that encode the wisdom of the stars and the movements of the seasons. You find yourself humming these melodies under your breath as you work, the cadence of the poetry matching the rhythm of your heartbeat. It is a strange and beautiful thing to realize that you are a single thread in a tapestry that stretches back into the primordial mist, and that by learning these songs you are ensuring that the thread will never be broken. As the evening shadows begin to lengthen, stretching across the courtyard like long, dark fingers, the atmosphere of the Telpochcalli shifts once more. The physical labor is done, and the formal lessons have concluded. But the education of a Jaguar warrior never truly pauses. You are led to the edge of the lake, where the water laps gently against the stone embankments. The sky is a bruised purple now, fading into the deep indigo of night, and the first stars begin to flicker like distant campfires in the celestial heights. You are taught to observe the heavens, to recognize the patterns that govern the planting of corn and the timing of sacred festivals. The masters point to the sky, their fingers tracing the path of the Great Bear and the shimmering cluster of the Pleiades. You learn that the universe is a clock of immense proportions, and that your life is synchronized with its ticking. The coolness of the night air settles over you, a soothing balm after the heat of the day's toil. You feel the slight ache in your shoulders, the pleasant tiredness that comes from honest work, and you let it anchor you to the earth. There is a particular kind of silence that descends upon the school at night. It is not an empty silence, but one filled with the soft breathing of hundreds of young men, the distant calls of water birds in the marshes, and the occasional crackle of a ceremonial fire burning on a nearby pyramid. You lie down on your simple mat of woven reeds, the texture of the fibers pressing gently against your skin. The transitions of your life are happening slowly, almost imperceptibly, like the way the lake water gradually carves a new shape into a piece of driftwood. You think of the wooden sword you practiced with earlier, the Macuahuitl, though yours is still without the razor-sharp obsidian blades. You remember the weight of it in your hand, the way it felt like an extension of your own arm. You are being shaped into a tool of the state, yes, but you are also being shaped into a man of deep reflection. To be a warrior of Tenochtitlan is to understand the balance between the hardness of the flint and the softness of the feather. You must be able to carry the heavy log, but you must also be able to sing the songs of the flowers. As you drift toward the edges of sleep, the images of the day blur together into a peaceful montage. The golden light on the temple steps, the rough texture of the pine bark, the deep, resonant drone of the elders' voices, and the cold, clear sparkle of the stars above. You feel a profound sense of belonging. The Telpochcalli is not just a school, it is the womb of your future self. Here, amidst the dust and the song, the common boy is slowly being unmade, and the jaguar is beginning to stir. The rhythm of your breath slows, matching the gentle lap of the lake against the city's foundations. You are tired, but it is a good tiredness, a weightless sensation that makes you feel as though you are floating on the surface of the water. The gods are in their heavens, the ancestors are in their songs, and you are here, safe within the stone walls of your destiny. The night is long, the air is still, and there is nothing more you need to do but rest, and prepare for the dawn that will surely come, bringing with it new lessons, new strengths, and the ever-unfolding path of the obsidian blade. The smell of cedarwood smoke and damp earth is the first thing that greets you as the morning mist begins to pull away from the canals, revealing the sharp geometric lines of the great temple. You find yourself standing in the center of the Telpochcalli courtyard, the packed dirt beneath your bare feet feeling cool and solid, a silent witness to the generations of boys who have stood exactly where you stand now. Your fingers, already roughened by years of labor and practice, reach out to touch the weapon leaning against the lime-washed wall. This is not the simple wooden staff of your childhood games, nor the heavy practice club you used as a young initiate. This is the Macuahuitl, the heart of the Mexica Warrior, and today it feels different in your hand, heavier, more intentional, as if it is finally recognizing you as its master. You lift the weapon, feeling the familiar pull in the muscles of your forearm and shoulder. It is carved from a single sturdy piece of oak, shaped like a broad paddle but tapering slightly toward the handle. The wood is dark, polished by the oils of many hands, and it hums with a quiet, dormant energy. But it is the edges that command your respect. Inset into deep grooves along the sides are rows of obsidian blades, the istli, each one a flake of volcanic glass, so thin it is translucent, yet sharper than any metal known to the world beyond these waters. You run your thumb carefully, inches away from the razor edge, feeling the slight vibration of the air as it passes over the jagged glass teeth. To hold this blade is to hold the power of the earth itself, forged in the fire of the mountains and shaped by the patient tapping of the master craftsman. It is a beautiful, terrifying weight, balanced perfectly so that when you swing, the momentum carries your arm in a fluid, unstoppable arc. The courtyard is quiet, save for the rhythmic thud of other students practicing nearby and the distant call of a heron over the lake. You take a slow, deep breath, tasting the thin, crisp air of the high valley, and begin your forms. The Macuahuitl is not a weapon for the clumsy or the rushed. It requires a grace that belies its brutal appearance. You move through the stances, the low crouch, the high guard, the sidestep that mirrors the prowl of the great cat for which your order is named. With every movement, you feel the shift of the obsidian's weight. It is top-heavy, designed to crush bone even as the glass slices through skin and cotton armor. You focus on the balance, the way your center of gravity must sink into the earth to anchor the force of the blow. The wood feels warm against your palm, and the calluses on your hands seem to lock into the grip, making the weapon an extension of your own bone and sinew. As you work, a shadow falls across the dust. You do not need to look up to know it is one of the veterans, a man whose body is a map of the Empire's expansion, scarred by the wars of the south and the long marches to the coast. He watches you with eyes that have seen the sun rise over a dozen fallen cities. He does not speak at first. He simply stands there, his arms crossed over a chest protected by quilted Ichkahuipili armor. You can hear his steady, measured breathing, a counterpoint to your own quickening heart. In the silence between your strikes, you feel his gaze inspecting the angle of your wrist, the tension in your calves, the way you recover your guard after a heavy swing. This is the true education of the warrior, not in the shouting of commands, but in the quiet, unrelenting observation of those who have survived. Eventually, he gestures for you to face him. He holds a practice version of the blade, made of heavy wood without the obsidian inserts, but the weight is the same. You square your shoulders, feeling a trickle of sweat run down the small of your back, cooling in the morning breeze. The sparring begins slowly, a conversation of wood on wood. Every time your blades clatter together, a shockwave travels up your arm, vibrating in your teeth, reminding you that this is not a game. He moves with a deceptive laziness, a fluidity that hides the explosive power in his hips. You find yourself retreating, your feet kicking up small clouds of fine grey dust that coat your ankles and shins. The sun is higher now, warming the stone walls of the courtyard, and the smell of dust and sweat begins to mingle with the sweetness of the nearby gardens. He catches you with a glancing blow to the shoulder, a reminder of a lapse in your guard, and the dull ache is a lesson you accept without complaint. You adjust, tucking your chin, narrowing your focus until the world consists only of the space between you and his weapon. You learn to read the slight twitch of his shoulder, the subtle shift in his weight that precedes a strike. It is a dance of anticipation, a meditation in motion, where the mind must be as still as a mountain pool, even as the body burns with effort. You realize, in the heat of the sparring, that the Macuahuitl is not just a tool for killing. It is a tool for discipline. It demands that you be present, that you cast aside the distractions of the past and the anxieties of the future, and exist only in this singular, vibrating moment of contact. By the time the veteran nods and turns away, your muscles are singing with a deep, throbbing fatigue that feels like a heavy blanket draped over your limbs. You return to the wall and carefully set your weapon down, wiping the dust from the obsidian with a piece of soft leather. You notice a small nick in one of the glass blades, a tiny imperfection earned in the struggle, and you feel a strange sense of pride. It is a mark of use, a sign that you are no longer just a boy dreaming of glory, but a man beginning to understand the cost of his path. The ache in your back is a slow, steady pulse, a reminder of the strength you are building, layer by layer, like the stone upon stone of the great temple itself. You walk toward the edge of the courtyard, where a stone basin holds cool, clear water brought in by the aqueducts. As you splash the water over your face and neck, the cold shock is a benediction. You look at your hands, red and swollen from the grip of the oak handle, and you see the future written in the lines of your palms. The path of the Jaguar is long, and the weight of the obsidian blade will only grow heavier as the years pass and the responsibilities of your rank increase. But for now, in the quiet aftermath of the morning's toil, there is a profound peace in the exhaustion. You have tasted the salt of your own sweat and the iron of your own determination. The city around you is fully awake now, a symphony of grinding maize, splashing paddles, and the distant calls of merchants in the marketplace. But here, in the shadow of the school, the air remains heavy with the scent of old wood and the memory of the strike. You find a spot in the shade of a colonnade, the stone floor smooth and cool against your tired legs. As you sit, watching the dust motes dance in the shafts of sunlight, you feel the steady rhythm of your heart slowing down, syncing with the ancient pulse of Tenochtitlan. The obsidian blade rests nearby, its dark teeth gleaming in the light, waiting for the next time you will call upon it. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the sounds of the great city wash over you like a gentle tide, knowing that you have earned this moment of stillness through the honest weight of the wood and the sharp, uncompromising truth of the stone. The scent of copal incense lingers in the weave of your cotton tunic, a faint, resinous reminder of the morning's offerings at the local temple. You walk barefoot along the cooled volcanic stone of the district plaza, feeling the residual warmth of the day's heat seeping through the soles of your feet, a grounding sensation that connects you to the very foundation of the island city. Your hands, calloused from years of gripping the heavy practice club, now rest at your sides, yet your mind is far from idle. You are no longer the boy who played at war in the dusty courtyards of the Telpochcalli. You are a young man standing on the threshold of the Ocelotl, the flowery war, and the weight of this realization is heavier than any weapon you have ever carried. In the quiet of the evening, as the shadows of the great pyramids stretch long and thin across the marketplace, you find yourself reflecting on the lessons of your mentors. They have taught you that the battlefield is not a place for mindless slaughter, nor is it a theatre for the simple taking of lives. To kill an enemy is a failure of technique, a wasted opportunity to nourish the sun and sustain the universe. You understand now that true status, the kind that will eventually allow you to drape the spotted skin of the jaguar over your shoulders, is measured solely by the number of living captives you take. Each prisoner is a sacred debt paid to the gods, a delicate exchange of life force that ensures the rains will continue to fall and the maize will continue to grow. This philosophy changes the way you look at your own body. You are not a dealer of death, but a harvester of souls, and your movements must be as precise and controlled as a weaver at her loom. The concept of the flowery war is a strange and beautiful paradox that you carry with you like a hidden stone in your palm. It is a conflict by appointment, a ritualized struggle between Tenochtitlan and the neighboring cities of the valley, where the goal is not conquest or the destruction of walls, but the gathering of the finest warriors for sacrifice. You think of the men you will face, men who speak your language, who honor the same gods, and who have trained just as rigorously as you have. There is a profound, almost intimate respect in this arrangement. To capture a brave enemy is to honor his strength, and to be captured yourself is to fulfill a destiny that transcends the individual. You feel a slow, steady pulse in your temples as you contemplate the spiritual gravity of the coming campaign. It is not a matter of hatred, but of cosmic necessity, a dance of blades, where the stakes are the very survival of the world itself. As you prepare for your first real march into the highlands, your psychological preparation becomes a ritual in its own right. You spend long hours in the steam baths, the Toxcatl, letting the thick, moist heat penetrate deep into your muscles and clarify your thoughts. In the darkness of the stone chamber, listening to the hiss of water on red-hot rocks, you visualize the chaos of the front lines. You imagine the deafening roar of the conch shells and the rhythmic thumping of the skin drums, sounds that can unmoor a man's soul if he is not anchored in his purpose. You practice the art of the steady gaze, training your eyes to remain fixed on an opponent's midsection, even as the air becomes thick with arrows and the scent of sweat and earth. You are learning to inhabit the silence at the center of the storm, a mental discipline that is far more difficult to master than the swing of the Macuahuitl. You walk back toward your family's home, passing through the quiet residential streets where the sound of grinding corn provides a rhythmic backdrop to your thoughts. The wood smoke from the hearths clings to your hair, a domestic and comforting smell that contrasts sharply with the metallic tang of the obsidian you have been sharpening. You think of the gear you have carefully prepared, the quilted cotton armor, soaked in brine to make it tough and resistant to stabs, and the shield decorated with the feathers of the parrot and the macaw. These are not merely tools of protection, they are extensions of your identity, a visual language that tells everyone who sees you exactly where you stand in the order of the world. Each stitch in your armor represents a prayer for steadiness, and each feather on your shield is a testament to the vibrancy of the life you are sworn to protect and, eventually, to capture. The night air is growing cooler now, and a soft breeze ripples the surface of the canals, carrying the distant sound of a flute from one of the palace gardens. You find a quiet spot near the water's edge and sit, letting your legs dangle over the stone embankment. The water is dark and obsidian-like, reflecting the stars that the priests call the 400 Southerners. You realize that your first campaign will be a test of more than just your physical strength. It will be a test of your heart, your Ocelotl. To take a captive, you must get close enough to feel their breath, to see the dilation of their pupils, and to grapple with them in a struggle that is as much a wrestling match as it is a duel. You must be fast enough to disable them without causing a mortal wound, a task that requires a level of restraint and focus that few men truly possess. You think of the older warriors in your neighborhood, men who walk with a certain deliberate grace, their bodies marked by the scars of a dozen flowery wars. They do not boast of the men they have slain, but speak in hushed, respectful tones of the captives they brought back to the great temple. There is a quiet dignity in their movements, a sense of peace that comes from knowing they have played their part in the grand celestial drama. You find yourself craving that same stillness, that same certainty of purpose. The path of the Jaguar is a narrow one, bordered on one side by the abyss of fear and on the other by the temptation of unnecessary cruelty. You must walk the middle way, the path of the disciplined hunter who understands that every drop of blood spilled is a sacred thing. The preparation is not just for the body, but for the ego. You are being taught to diminish your own desires, to see yourself not as a hero seeking glory, but as a servant of the sun. This shift in perspective is what allows you to face the prospect of the battlefield without the paralyzing grip of terror. If you fall, you will become a companion of the sun, rising with him in the morning and traveling across the sky in a blaze of light. If you succeed, you will bring life back to your city in the form of the captives who will sustain the gods. Either way, your life has meaning beyond the simple passage of days. This realization brings a profound sense of calm, a slowing of the breath that makes the heavy air of the valley feel light and easy in your lungs. As you finally stand to return to your mat for the night, you feel the weight of your ancestors watching from the shadows of the past. They were the ones who built this city on a marsh, who turned a wandering tribe into the masters of the world, and their blood flows in your veins, thick and hot. You are the latest link in a chain that stretches back to the beginning of time, and the obsidian blade waiting for you at home is the instrument through which you will honor that lineage. You walk slowly, savoring the silence of the city, the way the moonlight turns the white stucco of the houses into shimmering silver. Tomorrow the drums may sound, and the long march to the frontier may begin. But tonight, you are simply a man at peace with his soul, ready for the flowery death or the Jaguar's triumph. The transition from student to warrior is a subtle one, marked not by a single moment of brilliance, but by the gradual accumulation of these quiet reflections. You feel the calloused skin on your palms and the steady ache in your shoulders from a day of training, sensations that remind you of your reality. You are prepared. Your mind is as sharp as the stone teeth of your club, and your heart is as steady as the flow of the great canal. As you lie down on your woven mat, the sounds of Tenochtitlan fading into a gentle hum, you let the weight of your destiny settle over you like a warm blanket, knowing that when you wake, you will be one step closer to the path of the captive and the glory that lies beyond the obsidian edge. The vibration begins in the soles of your feet before it ever reaches your ears, a low, rhythmic thrumming that speaks of thousands of lives moving in unison. As you step out onto the great causeway, the cool morning mist still clings to the surface of Lake Texcoco, but the air is already thick with the scent of pine resin and the salt-damp stone. Your sandals, crafted from tough maguey fibre, make a soft, repetitive scuffing sound against the basalt paving, a sound echoed by the hundreds of warriors marching ahead of you, and the hundreds more following behind. It is a steady, hypnotic cadence, the heartbeat of the empire extending its reach outward from the center of the world. The weight of your Ichkahuipili, the quilted cotton armor soaked in brine to make it tough, presses firmly against your chest and shoulders. It is heavy, yes, but it is a reassuring weight, a second skin that marks your transition from a man of the city to a predator of the frontier. You adjust the straps of your shield, the chimali, feeling the fringe of feathers brush against your thigh with every stride. Around you, the ranks are orderly and silent. There is no need for shouting or commands, for every man knows his place in the line and every man knows the destination. The causeway stretches out like a long grey ribbon toward the mountains, and as you walk, the white temples of Tenochtitlan begin to shrink behind you, dissolving into the hazy embrace of the lake. Parallel to the columns of warriors, moving with a tireless, shuffling gait, are the Tlamame. These are the porters, the silent backbone of the march, and you watch them with a quiet respect as they navigate the edge of the stone path. Each man carries a load of 60 pounds or more, secured by a tump line, a broad leather strap across his forehead. They lean forward, their necks strained, their eyes fixed on the ground a few feet ahead of them, carrying the lifeblood of the army. Dried maize, beans, salt, and the extra obsidian blades that will be needed when the fighting begins. You hear the rhythmic creak of their wooden carrying frames, the causeways, a sound that blends with the steady thud of footsteps to create a symphony of logistics. Without them, the empire would be a heart without veins. It is their endurance that allows you to carry only your weapons and your courage. As the sun climbs higher, the coolness of the lake is replaced by the dry, dusty heat of the valley floor. The green chinampas and the willow-lined canals give way to the rugged terrain of the highlands, where the maguey and the prickly pear cactus stand like jagged sentinels. The dust kicked up by the thousands of feet ahead of you begins to coat your skin, a fine grey powder that mixes with your sweat. You feel it in the creases of your elbows and behind your knees, a gritty reminder of the miles already conquered. There is a meditative quality to the long-distance march, a shedding of the self. Your thoughts drift away from the complexities of the city, from the debts and the family ties, narrowing down until there is only the rhythm of the breath, the swing of the arms, and the sight of the jaguar skin mantle on the warrior directly in front of you. By midday, the march leads the army through smaller tributary towns, where the local inhabitants line the road in fearful silence. They offer baskets of tortillas and jars of cool water, their eyes downcast as the elite Jaguar and Eagle warriors pass by. You do not stop to talk. You accept the water with a nod, feeling the liquid cool your throat and wash away the grit of the road. These towns are the outskirts of the Triple Alliance, the places where the influence of the great speaker is felt, but perhaps not loved. You represent the terrifying majesty of the capital, a golden and feathered promise of protection, or a swift, sharp reminder of the cost of rebellion. The power you carry is not just in your muscles, but in the collective shadow cast by the army as it moves across the landscape like a dark cloud. As the afternoon shadows begin to lengthen, stretching across the valley like long, dark fingers, the pace of the march does not slacken. The commanders at the head of the column keep the tempo steady, pushing toward the high mountain passes that lead to the enemy territories. Your legs ache with a dull, throbbing heat, a deep fatigue that settles into the bone, yet you find a strange comfort in it. It is a physical manifestation of your service, a sacrifice of comfort offered up to the gods of war. The landscape begins to tilt upward, the air growing thinner and sharper, smelling of dry earth and ancient stone. You are leaving the temperate valley behind and entering the cold, thin air of the high Sierra, where the gods are said to breathe. As twilight descends, the order is finally given to halt and make camp. There are no tents to pitch, no soft beds to find. You find a flat patch of earth, perhaps sheltered by a cluster of boulders or a gnarled oak tree, and begin the ritual of settling for the night. You unstrap your armor, feeling the sudden delicious coolness of the mountain air hitting your damp skin. It is a sharp contrast to the heat of the day, a biting chill that makes you reach for your tilmatli, your woven cloak, wrapping it tightly around your shoulders. You and your companions share a simple meal of toasted maize and dried meat, eating in a companionable silence that needs no words. The firelight flickers against the nearby rocks, casting long dancing shadows that look like the restless spirits of the ancestors watching over the camp. The night on the frontier is different from the night in Tenochtitlan. In the city, the night is never truly dark, lit by the eternal fires of the temples and the torches of the night watch. But here, far from the influence of the great temple, the darkness is absolute and profound. You lie back on the hard earth, using your shield as a makeshift pillow. The ground beneath you is cold and unyielding, yet after a day of marching, it feels like the most welcoming bed in the world. You look up, and the sky is a vast, shimmering tapestry of stars, so bright and so numerous that they seem to press down upon the earth. You can see the Milky Way, the celestial path of the souls, stretching across the heavens like a river of silver smoke. You are close now to enemy territory, the lands of the Tlaxcalans, or perhaps the Mixtecs, and the air feels charged with a different kind of energy. The wind whistling through the mountain passes carries the scent of distant wood smoke, perhaps from a hostile watchfire. You listen to the sounds of the wilderness, the lonely cry of a mountain lion, the rustle of dry leaves in the breeze, and the steady, rhythmic breathing of the warriors, sleeping all around you. You are part of a great sleeping beast, 10,000 men strong, resting on the spine of the world. Even in sleep, your hand stays near the hilt of your obsidian-edged club, the Macuahuitl, which lies wrapped in cloth by your side. The cold begins to seep through your cloak, but you do not fight it. You embrace the chill, letting it slow your heart rate and steady your mind. You think of the Jaguar, your patron, who moves through the night with silent grace and absolute certainty. You imagine your spirit leaving your body, prowling through the dark woods that surround the camp, eyes glowing with a predatory amber light. You are no longer just a man. You are a weapon of the state, a holy instrument of the sun. The fatigue in your muscles begins to turn into a heavy, leaden weight, pulling you down into the earth, anchoring you to the land you are sworn to conquer, As you drift toward the edge of consciousness, the rhythmic sounds of the day return to you in fragments. The scuff of sandals, the creak of the porter's frames, the steady beat of your own heart. They blend together into a low, humming vibration that lulls you deeper into the dark. You are safe in the center of the camp, protected by the sentries who stand watch on the ridges above, their silhouettes sharp against the starlight. Tomorrow, the march will begin again, and the gap between you and your destiny will narrow further. But for now there is only the cold wind, the vast, silent sky, and the deep, restorative sleep of the warrior. You close your eyes, letting the darkness of the high Sierra wrap around you like a heavy velvet shroud, knowing that you are exactly where you were meant to be, on the path to glory, beneath the watchful eyes of the stars. The silence of the mountain pass does not last forever, and soon the stillness of the night is shattered by the deep, resonant drone of the conch shells, a sound that seems to vibrate within your very marrow. It is a low, mournful call that rises from the valley below, signaling that the time for contemplation has passed and the hour of the sun has arrived. You rise from your bed of earth, your joints stiff from the high-altitude chill. But as you pull your quilted cotton armor tight against your chest, the familiar weight of it brings a strange sense of calm. The air is thick with the scent of crushed grass and the metallic tang of obsidian being checked and polished one last time. You can hear the rhythmic thumping of the Telpochcalli drums, a heartbeat that matches your own, steady and relentless, driving the blood through your veins as the column begins its descent toward the battlefield. As you crest the final ridge, the world explodes into a kaleidoscope of color that defies the dusty reality of the march. Before you, the valley floor is a sea of swaying feathers, brilliant turquoises, deep scarlets, and the shimmering, iridescent greens of the Quetzal. The banners of the various calpulli wave in the heat, each one a testament to the lineage and pride of the men standing beside you. You feel the sun beating down on your shoulders, the golden light catching the glint of the volcanic glass set into your Macuahuitl. It is a heavy weapon, balanced perfectly for your grip, and as you wrap the leather thong around your wrist, you feel the rough texture of the wood against your palm, a physical anchor in a world that is rapidly dissolving into the beautiful, terrifying chaos of the charge. The transition from the steady march to the frantic energy of the skirmish happens almost without your noticing. One moment, you are part of a disciplined line, and the next, the distance between you and the enemy has vanished. The sound is absolute, a wall of noise composed of war cries, the whistling of arrows, and the dull thud of shields meeting shields. You find yourself moving with a fluidity you didn't know you possessed, your feet finding purchase on the uneven ground as if guided by the earth itself. The dust rises in thick clouds, coating your throat and stinging your eyes, but your focus remains narrow and sharp. You are not looking for a kill. You are looking for the moment of surrender, the chance to prove your worth not through the taking of a life but through the mastery of a soul. You see him through the haze, a warrior from the coastal lowlands, his skin painted in patterns of yellow and black, his own weapon raised in a desperate arc. The adrenaline is a cold fire in your chest, sharpening your senses until you can see the individual beads of sweat on his brow and the frantic rise and fall of his chest. This is the dance you have rehearsed in the courtyards of the Calmecac since you were a boy, the intricate steps of feint and parry that are now your only reality. You move inward, the weight of your Tlatelolco armor absorbing a glancing blow that would have otherwise torn skin. The impact sends a jolt through your shoulder, a dull ache that tells you you are alive, present, and tethered to this singular, breathless moment in time. There is a strange, quiet intimacy in this struggle, amidst the roar of thousands. You can hear his ragged breathing, a sharp contrast to the distant thunder of the drums. You wait for the opening. A slight stumble as he steps over a fallen branch, a fraction of a second where his guard drops just enough. You don't strike with the edge of the obsidian, but with the flat of the blade and the strength of your own body, closing the distance to grapple. Your fingers find the rough fabric of his tunic, and you use his own momentum to bring him to the earth. The world seems to slow down as you pin him, the heat of the sun and the dust of the valley floor surrounding you, both like a heavy golden shroud. As you secure his arms, the roar of the battle seems to recede into a dull hum, as if you are underwater. You have done it. Your first captive. The bridge between the boy who left Tenochtitlan and the Jaguar Warrior you are destined to become. You feel the rough hemp of the binding cord as you tie his wrists, the texture of the rope a grounding sensation against your calloused skin. Your heart is hammering against your ribs, a frantic bird seeking escape, but as you stand and pull your captive to his feet, a profound sense of stillness washes over you. The adrenaline begins to ebb, replaced by a deep, weary satisfaction that settles into your bones like the cooling ash of a fire. The skirmish continues around you, a swirling storm of feathers and flint, but the frantic urgency has left you. You lead your captive back toward the rear lines, your movements slow and deliberate. Every step feels heavier than the last, the weight of your success, adding to the physical exhaustion of the day. You notice the small details now, the way the light filters through the dust motes, the smell of parched earth and sweat, the distant, rhythmic chanting of the priests that rises above the din of combat. The path to glory is not a sudden leap, but a series of measured, difficult steps, and today you have taken the most important one. As you reach the safety of the reserve ranks, you allow yourself a moment to simply breathe. You lean against a large, sun-warmed stone, feeling the heat radiate through your armor and into your aching muscles. The world is still loud, still violent, and still vibrant, but for this brief interval, you are a spectator to your own life. You watch the banners wave in the distance, their colors softened by the encroaching shadows of the late afternoon. The fierce focus that sustained you during the fight begins to blur at the edges, drifting into a dreamy, contemplative state. You think of the city, the quiet canals, the smell of roasting maize, the sound of the lake lapping against the stone piers, and you realize that you are bringing a piece of this victory back to her, a gift to the gods who watch over the heart of the world. The shadows grow long across the valley, stretching out like the fingers of a giant, and the intensity of the fighting begins to wane as the sun dips toward the horizon. You sit in the gathering twilight, the cool air of the evening beginning to chase away the sweltering heat of the day. Your body feels light, almost buoyant, as the tension of the battle fully releases its grip. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the distant sounds of the camp, the clatter of cooking pots, the low murmur of voices, the occasional crackle of a fire, wash over you like a gentle tide. You are tired, more tired than you have ever been, but it is a clean, honest fatigue that promises a sleep without dreams, a rest that is the hard-earned reward of the brave. The stars begin to peek through the deepening blue of the sky, the same stars that watched over you in the mountains, now silent witnesses to your triumph. You find a spot near the edge of the camp, away from the main bustle, where the grass is long and soft. As you lay down, the earth seems to rise up to meet you, cradling your weary frame. The weight of the day, the noise of the shells, the blur of the feathers. It all drifts away, leaving only the steady, rhythmic pulse of the night. You are a warrior of the sun, but even the sun must eventually sink into the cool embrace of the earth, finding peace in the darkness before the dawn of a new, glorious day. and as the first owls begin to call from the trees, you let yourself go, sinking into the deep, restorative quiet of the valley. The scent of copal incense clings to your skin like a second shadow, thick and sweet, drifting through the stone halls of the House of the Eagles, where the air is cool and heavy with the weight of centuries. You stand in the silence of the inner courtyard, your feet bare against the smooth, polished floor, feeling the residual warmth of the afternoon sun slowly leaching out of the masonry. It has been many moons since you first stepped onto the field of battle as a mere youth, but today the world feels fundamentally different, as if the very air around you has thickened with a new kind of gravity. To capture one enemy is a feat of strength. To capture two is a mark of skill. To capture three is a sign of favor from the gods. But it is the fourth capture that changes the essence of a man's soul. In the eyes of your peers and the high priests, you are no longer just a soldier of the Triple Alliance. You have become a vessel for the divine predator that stalks the edges of the world. The transition began not with a roar, but with a quiet, ceremonial precision that felt more like a dream than a reality. You remember the way the high priest's hands felt as he approached you, dry and papery, like old parchment, yet his grip was as firm as the obsidian blades you carry. The courtyard was silent, save for the distant, rhythmic thrum of a drum somewhere in the heart of the city, a sound that seemed to beat in time with your own quickening heart. You knelt on the cold stone, bowing your head as the words of the ancestors were whispered over you, ancient Nahuatl verses that spoke of the night, of the stars, and of the spotted skin of the great cat that mirrors the constellations in the sky. It was a moment of profound stillness, a pause between the life you had known and the one that was about to begin. Then came the weight of the transformation. Two seasoned warriors stepped forward, their faces painted in the black and yellow of the Jaguar, and began to dress you in the Tlahuistli, the suit of the Ocelotl. You felt the coarse, patterned fabric slide over your limbs, a tailored skin that fit so snugly it felt like a new layer of your own body. This was not merely cotton and dye, it was a sacred garment, blessed in the smoke of the temples and infused with the spirit of the jungle's master. As they pulled the sleeves tight and fastened the toggles at your back, you felt a strange, cooling sensation spread through your muscles, a lightness in your chest, even as the physical weight of the gear pressed down upon your shoulders. The most transformative moment, however, was the presentation of the helmet. It is a magnificent work of artistry and terror, carved from the hardest wood and stretched over with the genuine pelt of a jaguar. As you reached up to take it, your fingers brushed the stiff golden fur and the sharp white fangs set into the snarling maw. You lifted it slowly, the wood cool against your palms, and lowered it over your head. Suddenly the world narrowed. The peripheral vision of the man was replaced by the focused, predatory gaze of the beast. You looked out from between the painted jaws, the shadows of the helmet's interior framing your view of the temple complex. The sounds of the city seemed to sharpen, the rustle of a distant feather, the drip of water into a stone basin, the soft breathing of the men standing beside you. You were no longer just a man named by your parents. You were a jaguar. This new skin brings with it a silence that is difficult to describe. As you walk back toward your quarters, the tassels on your shield swaying rhythmically against your thigh, you notice that people move differently around you now. The younger students at the Kalmakak school press themselves against the walls as you pass, their eyes wide with a mixture of fear and profound longing. Even the seasoned merchants in the market seem to lower their voices, acknowledging the presence of one who has looked into the eyes of death 4 times and brought back a living prize for the sun. There is a profound loneliness in this honor, a realization that you have stepped onto a path that few can follow, and that your life is no longer entirely your own. You are a guardian of the Emperor, a protector of the great temple, and a provider of the sacred energy that keeps the fifth sun moving across the sky. As the twilight deepens into a true velvet night, you find yourself sitting on the edge of a low stone bench, staring out at the reflection of the moon in the canal. The wooden helmet sits beside you, its glass eyes catching the faint light and shimmering with an eerie, borrowed life. You reach out and trace the line of the jaguar's ear, thinking of the responsibility that now rests on your brow. To be a Jaguar warrior is to be a servant of Tezcatlipoca, the lord of the smoking mirror, the god of the night wind and the patron of kings. It is a heavy burden to carry the expectations of a god who sees all and judges the hearts of men. You think of the emperor, Montezuma, sitting in his palace of gardens and birds, counting on men like you to hold the borders of the world together. The weight of his trust is heavier than any suit of armor. It is a constant, steady pressure in the center of your chest. You feel the slow ache in your back from the long hours of standing at attention during the ceremony, a dull throb that reminds you of your humanity, even as you wear the trappings of a god. You decide to untie the sandals from your feet, letting the soles of your feet rest directly on the cool, damp earth of the garden. The texture of the soil, the scent of crushed marigolds, and the distant sound of a flute being played in a nearby house all serve to anchor you. You are a warrior, yes, but you are also a part of this valley, a part of the mud and the reeds and the obsidian. The transformation is complete, but the man inside the skin remains, quiet and contemplative, watching the stars and waiting for the call to march once more. The stars above Tenochtitlan are bright tonight, scattered like salt across a dark cloth. You look up at the constellation the priests call the Great Bear, but to you it looks like the paw of a giant cat stepping across the heavens. You realize that your life will now be measured in cycles of light and dark, in the rhythmic march to the frontiers, and in the solemn silence of the temple guard. There is a strange peace in this certainty. The path is set, the skin is earned. You lay back against the stone, the cool night air moving over your face, and let the sounds of the city wash over you. The distant lap of water against the Chinampas, the rustle of maize leaves in the breeze, the soft rhythmic chanting from a distant shrine. As you close your eyes, the image of the jaguar remains burned into your mind's eye, the golden fur, the black rosettes, the unblinking intensity of the predator. You feel a deep, resonant connection to the earth beneath you, as if you could feel the very heartbeat of the island pulsing through the stone. You are the shield of the empire. You are the tooth and the claw. And as sleep begins to pull at the edges of your consciousness, you embrace the darkness, knowing that when you wake, you will rise not just as a man, but as a shadow of the jungle, a warrior of the sun, wrapped in the skin of the night. The transition is over, and the long, quiet watch begins. You drift further down into the stillness, the weight of your new life becoming as natural as breath, as steady as the turning of the earth, as inevitable as the rising of the moon over the lake. And in the deep, restorative quiet of the House of the Eagles, you finally find the rest you have earned. The scent of copal incense clings to the heavy cotton hangings of your private chamber, a fragrance that has become as much a part of your skin as the salt of the lake. You feel the cool, polished stone of the floor beneath your bare soles, a temperature that never seems to rise, even when the midday sun beats down upon the great temple just outside these walls. This is the House of the Eagles and Jaguars, a sanctuary of shadow and stone situated at the very heart of the world, just a few hundred paces from the sacred precinct where the gods demand their due. Here, the air is thick with a different kind of silence, a heavy, respectful quiet that belongs only to those who have proven their worth in the red dust of the battlefield. It is a place of transition, a bridge between the chaotic life of the common soldier and the divine service of the elite. And as you move through the corridors, you feel the weight of the history carved into the very pillars that support the cedar beams above your head. The architecture here is designed to dwarf the individual, to remind you that while you are a champion, you are also a single thread in a vast cosmic tapestry. The walls are painted in deep ochres and vibrant vermilions, depicting the great feline spirits and the soaring birds of prey that guide your order, their eyes seemingly following you as you walk toward the central courtyard. You find yourself slowing your pace, matching your stride to the rhythmic dripping of water from a nearby fountain, letting the tension of the day seep out through your heels and into the earth. There is no rush here. The House of the Eagles operates on a clock of ritual and tradition, where every movement is intentional and every word spoken carries the gravity of an oath. As you enter the communal dining hall, the warmth of the brazier fires greets you, carrying the savory aroma of slow-simmered turkey, rich with the heat of dried chilies and the earthy sweetness of ground cacao. You take your place among your brothers, men whose faces are etched with the same stories of survival and triumph that you carry in your own heart. There is a profound comfort in this brotherhood, a shared understanding that requires no explanation. You sit on a low mat of woven reeds, the texture slightly rough against your thighs, and accept a bowl of thick maize gruel from a silent attendant. The meal is eaten in a companionable hush, broken only by the soft clatter of ceramic spoons and the occasional murmur of a shared memory. These men are your family now, bound by blood and the shared shadow of the obsidian blade. You look across at a seasoned warrior, his shoulders scarred by the grasp of an enemy long since forgotten, and you see in his eyes the same steady, unwavering light that guides your own path. The food is nourishing, grounding you in your physical body after hours of mental discipline, but the true sustenance of the house lies in the quiet moments that follow the meal. You retreat to a smaller, more secluded alcove where the light of the moon begins to silver the edges of the carved lintels. This is the time for meditation, for looking inward to ensure that the jaguar spirit within you remains disciplined and sharp. You settle into a cross-legged position, resting your hands palms up on your knees, and focus on the steady rise and fall of your chest. The sounds of the city of Tenochtitlan begin to fade. The distant calls of the canoemen on the canals, the rustle of the lakeside reeds, the faint echoes of drums from a distant temple. All of it recedes until there is only the sound of your own blood rushing through your veins, a rhythm as old as the mountains themselves. In this stillness, you reach for the small obsidian lancet kept in a leather pouch at your belt. The stone is cold, its edge so unnervingly sharp that it seems to divide the very air. This is the ritual of bloodletting, an act of humble sacrifice that connects your life force to the sun that sustains the universe. You do not flinch as you perform the task. The pain is a sharp, bright needle that anchors you to the present moment, a reminder that your life is not entirely your own. You watch the dark droplets fall onto a piece of bark paper, watching as the fibers soak up the red offering, turning it into a prayer that rises toward the heavens. It is a grounding practice, a way of shedding the ego and remembering that you are a servant of the people and the gods. The world feels thin here, the veil between the physical and the spiritual shimmering like the surface of the lake at dawn, and you find a strange, profound peace in this small, controlled ache. As the ritual concludes, you burn the paper in a small ceramic bowl, watching the smoke curl and twist toward the ceiling, carrying your intentions into the night. The room feels heavier now, more solid, as if the act of sacrifice has reinforced the walls around you. You lean back against the cool stone, closing your eyes and letting the lingering scent of the smoke wash over you. You think of the young boys in the Telpochcalli, the schools where you once trained, looking up at the house of the eagles with awe and longing. You were once one of them, dreaming of the day you would wear the jaguar skin and walk these hallowed halls. Now that you are here, you realize that the glory is not in the recognition or the fine feathers, but in the quiet strength of the man who stands ready in the dark. The night deepens, and the house of the eagles grows even more silent, the torches in the hallways flickering low until they are nothing but glowing embers. You feel a deep, restorative fatigue spreading through your limbs, the kind of tiredness that only comes from a life lived with absolute purpose. Your bed of soft furs and fine woven blankets awaits you in your private quarters, a nest of warmth in the cool stone heart of the city. As you walk back, your footsteps are silent, the practiced gait of a predator who has found its place of rest. You pass by the armory, where the wooden shields and obsidian-edged swords lean against the walls, their shadows long and jagged in the moonlight. They are resting too, their edges waiting for the call of the morning, just as you are. When you finally lie down, the weight of the blankets feels like a protective embrace, shielding you from the worries of the world beyond the sacred precinct. You think of the lake surrounding the city, the dark, cool water that holds Tenochtitlan like a jewel in a setting of obsidian. You imagine the ripples spreading out from the island, reaching toward the distant shores where the mountains stand like silent sentinels. You are part of this landscape, as much a feature of the valley as the volcanoes that puff white smoke into the blue sky. Your breath slows, matching the slow rhythmic pulse of the city itself, a living organism that breathes through its temples and its markets, its canals and its warriors. The images of the day begin to blur. The flash of a tropical bird's wing, the taste of the bitter cacao, the sharp sting of the obsidian lancet, the steady gaze of your brothers. They all melt into a single golden glow that warms you from the inside out. You are a Jaguar Warrior, a guardian of the sun, a shadow in the night. But here, in the house of the eagles, you are simply a man at peace. The stone beneath you, the sky above you, and the blood within you are all in perfect harmony. You drift further into the velvet dark, the silence of the house of the eagles wrapping around you like a heavy cloak, a garment of honor and rest that you have earned through every step of your journey. The gods are watching, the city is sleeping, and you are exactly where you are meant to be. And as the last ember in the hallway fades to grey, you let go of the world, sinking into a dreamless, sacred sleep. The scent of roasted maize and sweet copal resin drifts through the air long before the great plaza comes into view, a fragrant herald of the life that pulses at the heart of the empire. You move with a slow, deliberate grace, your feet finding the familiar rhythm of the stone causeway as you approach the market of Tlatelolco. Today, you are not merely a man walking to trade, you are a vision of the sun's own ferocity. The weight of your jaguar skin suit is a comforting pressure against your shoulders, the thick, spotted pelt cured to a supple softness that moves as you move, a second skin that speaks of your courage and the gods' favour. The wooden headpiece of the great cat rests upon your brow, its glass bead eyes catching the light, while the yellow feathers of the tropical oriole fringe your shield, shimmering like liquid gold with every steady stride. As you step into the vast expanse of the marketplace, the sheer scale of it opens up before you, a sprawling sea of colour and sound that seems to stretch toward the very edge of the world. It is said that 60,000 souls gather here on the busiest days, and yet there is a profound order to the chaos, a geometry of commerce that mirrors the precision of the stars. You feel the air grow warmer here, thick with the breath of thousands, and the hum of 100 different dialects blending into one low, rhythmic vibration. You walk down the wide lanes, and as you do, the crowd parts before you, like water before the prow of a great canoe. It is a quiet, instinctive movement. The commoners, the Macuahuitl in their simple cactus fibre tilmas, lower their gaze as you pass, their shoulders rounding in a gesture of deep-seated respect. You feel their eyes tracing the jagged obsidian teeth of your Macuahuitl hanging at your side, a silent acknowledgement of the protection you provide and the terrible power you wield in the name of the Triple Alliance. The sensory richness of the market begins to wrap around you, a tapestry of earthly delights that distracts the mind from the rigours of the garrison. To your left, the feather workers have laid out their treasures. You pause for a moment, the soft rustle of thousands of plumes creating a sound like a gentle wind through the reeds. There are the iridescent green tail feathers of the quetzal, so long and delicate they seem to defy gravity, and the deep, bruised purples of the cotinga. They lie in baskets like captured rainbows, waiting to be woven into the headdresses of kings or the banners of generals. You reach out, your calloused fingers brushing the air just above the downy piles, feeling the static hum of such concentrated beauty. Further along, the lane of the goldsmiths glitters with a light that feels almost divine. Here, the metal of the gods has been beaten into thin, shimmering discs or cast into the shapes of tiny, perfect cicadas and bells that chime with a high, silvery note when the breeze catches them. The scent of charcoal fires and molten wax hangs heavy here, a reminder of the labour required to turn the earth's bones into finery. You continue your stroll, the stone underfoot polished smooth by the passage of millions of sandals, feeling the cool weight of your jade earplugs tugging gently at your lobes. As you enter the section dedicated to the precious cacao, the aroma changes entirely. It becomes earthy, dark and intoxicating. Here, the small brown beans are treated with the reverence of minted coin. You watch an old woman count them out into the hand of a merchant, her movements precise and rhythmic, her face a map of 90 years of sun and shadow. Cacao is the blood of the earth, a luxury that fuels the long watches of the night and the weary limbs of the traveller. It is a quiet comfort to know that such abundance exists, that the tribute of 1,000 distant provinces flows into this single beating heart of the city. The people watch you with a mixture of awe and a faint, flickering shadow of dread. To them, you are a creature of myth made flesh, a guardian who stands between the hearth fire and the darkness of the outer wilds. You see a young boy, perhaps no older than 8, clutching his father's tunic as you pass. His eyes are wide, fixed on the jaguar claws that tip your elbows, and for a fleeting second, you see yourself in him. The same wonder, the same burning desire to one day wear the skin of the predator. You offer a slow, almost imperceptible nod, and the boy's face lights up with a silent joy that warms you more than the midday sun. This is the social contract of your world. You carry the burden of the blade so that they may carry the baskets of corn. You bleed so that they may plant and harvest in peace. As you meander toward the center of the plaza, where the judges sit in their elevated stalls to settle disputes with a word, you pass the rows of fine cotton mantles. The fabrics are dyed in hues of cochineal red and indigo blue, folded into neat stacks that look like layers of sunset. The textures change as you walk, from the rough, honest weave of henequen to the gossamer lightness of the finest white cotton, soft enough to be pulled through a finger ring. You take a deep breath, tasting the salt from the nearby lake, the smoke from the cooking braziers, where tortillas are puffing up over the heat, and the sharp, clean scent of sliced pineapples and guavas. It is a symphony of life, a reminder of why the gods demanded the world be created, and why it must be maintained with such vigilance. You find yourself slowing your pace even further, letting the vibrant energy of Tlatelolco wash over you, acting as a balm for the scars of past campaigns. The noise of the market, the shouting of vendors, the barking of the hairless, zoloid squinkly dogs, the rhythmic tapping of the stonemasons, all of it begins to blur into a single, soothing drone. It is the sound of a civilization at its zenith. You pass a merchant from the coast who is displaying shells as large as a man's head, their interiors spiraled with pearlescent pinks and creams. He bows low, his forehead nearly touching the ground, and offers you a small piece of dried fish as a token of esteem. You accept it with a silent gesture of thanks, the saltiness of the gift sparking on your tongue, a taste of the great bitter waters you have yet to see with your own eyes. The sun is high now, casting short, dark shadows at your feet. The heat of the day is tempered by the lake breezes that weave through the market stalls, carrying away the dust and the heavy scents of the animal market. You feel a profound sense of belonging here amidst the gold and the feathers and the common folk. You are the wall that surrounds this garden. Every person you pass, every merchant you ignore, every child who stares in silence is a reason for your discipline, a reason for the long hours of training in the scorching sun and the cold nights spent in prayer. The market is not just a place of trade, it is the evidence of your success. As you begin to turn back toward the ceremonial heart of Tenochtitlan, leaving the bustling lanes of Tlatelolco behind, the transition is gradual. The sounds of haggling grow faint, replaced once more by the whistling of the wind through the high temples. The weight of your warrior's finery feels lighter now, as if the appreciation of the city has buoyed your spirits. You walk with the knowledge that tonight, as the stars take their places in the heavens, the wealth you saw today will be tucked away into 1,000 homes, safe under the shadow of the Jaguar's paw. The world is vast, and the market is its mirror, reflecting everything from the humblest bean to the most radiant gold. And you, the silent observer in your coat of spots, are the thread that holds the tapestry together, moving through the light and shadow with the quiet confidence of one who knows his place in the grand design of the gods. The journey back is a slow descent into a different kind of peace, a meditative walk that prepares you for the stillness of the evening to come. The rhythm of the city begins to change as the month of Toxcatl approaches, a shift you feel not in the mind, but in the very marrow of your bones. It starts as a low, persistent hum, the sound of distant drums echoing across the salt-crusted waters of the lake, signaling the arrival of the most sacred of seasons. For a Jaguar warrior, this is not merely a time of ritual, but a moment when the veil between the earthly realm and the divine grows thin, and your role as a protector of the cosmic order moves from the battlefield to the hallowed stones of the great plaza. You find yourself standing in the quiet interior of your quarters, the air cool and smelling of dried copal resin, as you prepare your regalia for the festivities. There is a weight to this preparation, a slow and deliberate focus as you check the stitching on your sandals and the vibrancy of the feathers that will soon catch the light of the midday sun. As the festival begins, you join the great procession of warriors, a river of spotted skins and shimmering obsidian moving toward the heart of Tenochtitlan. The stone beneath your bare feet is smooth, polished by the passage of thousands, yet it feels different today, charged with a quiet energy that seems to vibrate upward through your heels. You are no longer just a man, a husband, or a soldier. You are a living vessel for the power of the Jaguar, a terrestrial shadow of the night sky. The great plaza opens before you, a vast expanse of white limestone hemmed in by the towering shadows of the pyramids, and the heat of the afternoon sun begins to settle on your shoulders like a heavy golden cloak. There is no haste here, only the steady, rhythmic pulse of the gathering crowd. a sea of people whose breathing seems to synchronize with the beat of the Macuahuitl drums. The dancing begins slowly, a collective swaying that feels as natural as the movement of reeds in the lake breeze. You take your place among your brothers, the other Jaguar and Eagle warriors, forming great concentric circles that spiral around the central altar. The scent of burning incense rises in thick, blue-white ribbons, curling around your head and blurring the edges of the world until only the movement remains. You lift your feet in time with the deep, resonant thud of the drum, a sound so profound it feels like the heartbeat of the earth itself. Your movements are precise and measured, a physical prayer offered to Tezcatlipoca, the smoking mirror, who sees all and governs the destiny of men. With every step, you feel the connection between your own life and the vast, turning wheel of the stars, understanding that your presence here is a vital thread in the preservation of the fifth sun. The chanting starts low, a guttural vibration that rises from the chests of hundreds of men, growing into a wall of sound that drowns out the mundane worries of the day. The words are ancient, their meanings woven into the very fabric of your culture, speaking of creation, sacrifice, and the eternal struggle to keep the darkness at bay. You do not think about the words, you feel them. They resonate in your throat and echo in your skull, a vocalization of the duty you carry. As you dance, the physical exertion begins to melt away the boundaries of yourself, and you become part of a singular, breathing entity. The sweat trickles down your back, cooling in the occasional gust of wind, and the weight of your ceremonial shield feels lighter, as if it were an extension of your own arm. You are moving in harmony with the cosmos, participating in the great cycle that ensures the rains will fall and the maize will grow. Between the dances, there are moments of profound stillness, where the music drops away, and only the sound of the wind whistling through the high crests of the temples remains. In these pauses, you look up at the steep stairs of the great temple, where the priests move with silent, predatory grace. You recognize the gravity of the moment, the understanding that the prosperity of your people is bought with devotion, and the willingness to stand as a bridge between the gods and the earth. Your life as a warrior has always been defined by this duality, the ferocity of the hunt and the solemnity of the shrine. Here, in the shadow of the peaks of the Templo Mayor, the two halves of your soul find a rare and quiet equilibrium. The colorful banners of the city flutter overhead, red and yellow against a sky of deepest turquoise, and you feel a sense of immense peace in knowing that you are exactly where you are meant to be. As the sun begins to arc toward the western mountains, the light turns to a rich, molten amber, casting long shadows across the plaza. The jaguar skins of your companions seem to come alive in this half-light, the spots shimmering like dark stars against the tawny fur. The rhythm of the dance intensifies, the chanting growing more rhythmic and hypnotic, pulling you deeper into a state of meditative focus. You watch the dust rise from the feet of the dancers, a golden haze that hangs in the air, catching the final rays of the day. It is a reminder of the transience of all things, that life is a beautiful, fleeting song composed of movement and breath. Yet, there is a comfort in this transience, a realization that while the individual may pass, the cycle of the festival and the duty of the warrior will endure through the ages. You notice the small details of the people surrounding you, the intent expression on a young initiate's face, the steady hand of an elder warrior as he adjusts his headdress, the way the light glints off a piece of polished jade. These are the anchors that keep you grounded even as the ritual lifts your spirit toward the heavens. The festival of Toxcatl is a time of renewal, a shedding of the old year like a snake discards its skin, and you feel that same shedding occurring within yourself. The fatigue in your muscles is a clean, honest ache, a physical manifestation of your service. You are the guardian of this sacred space, the one who stands watch, so that the people may sleep in peace and the gods may be satisfied with the devotion of their children. Meanwhile, the scent of the evening meal begins to drift from the surrounding neighborhoods, the smell of toasted corn, chili, and wood smoke mingling with the fading aroma of the ceremonial incense. It is a bridge back to the domestic world, a gentle reminder that even the most sacred of days must eventually give way to the quiet of the night. The chanting begins to wind down, the voices softening into a melodic hum that matches the cooling air. You feel a deep, soul-deep exhaustion, but it is accompanied by a profound clarity. The world feels sharp and clear, every stone and every leaf imbued with a hidden significance that you can almost grasp. As the final drumbeat fades into the twilight, a heavy silence descends upon the plaza, broken only by the distant lap of the lake against the causeways. You stand for a moment, letting the stillness wash over you, your breath coming in slow, even draws. The stars are beginning to emerge, the first pinpricks of light in the deepening indigo of the sky, and you look up at them with the eyes of a jaguar, watchful, patient, and unafraid. The sacred duty has been fulfilled for another day, the cosmic balance maintained through the strength of your limbs and the sincerity of your heart. You turn away from the great temple, your footsteps light and silent on the cooling stone, carrying the peace of the ritual back with you into the shadows of the city. The journey home is a slow, contemplative walk through a world that feels renewed, as if the very air has been washed clean by the collective will of your people. And as you move through the darkening streets, the memory of the dance remains in your muscles, a rhythmic echo that will guide your dreams and prepare you for the dawn that is certain to come. Whispers have a way of traveling faster than the swiftest messenger, moving like a low mist across the surface of Lake Texcoco and seeping into the reed-matted floors of the warrior houses. You sit on a low stool of woven grass, the rough texture pressing against your thighs as you pull a smoothing stone across the edge of a fresh obsidian blade. The sound is a rhythmic, hypnotic rasp, a tiny screech of glass against stone that fills the quiet of the courtyard. For days, the air in Tenochtitlan has felt heavy, not with the moisture of an impending storm, but with a strange electric tension that makes the hair on your arms stand thin and restless. The merchants coming up from the hot lands of the coast bring stories that do not fit the world you know. They speak of floating mountains with white wings that catch the wind, and of men with skin the color of pale lime, their faces hidden behind masks of grey stone that shines like the sun on water. You pause your work, feeling the cool weight of the Macuahuitl in your hand, its oak frame sturdy and familiar. You run a calloused thumb carefully near the new blade, not touching the edge, but feeling the cold aura of its sharpness. The omens have been appearing for months, though you tried to put them from your mind during the festivals. A fire signal that appeared in the eastern sky, shaped like a flaming ear of corn. The temple of Huitzilopochtli catching fire without a strike of lightning, the water of the lake boiling and foaming until it rose to flood the houses. These things felt like distant poetry until now, as you sit in the deepening twilight, listening to the muffled conversations of the elders in the next room. They speak of a new kind of war and a new kind of stranger who does not seek captives for the gods, but seeks only to dismantle the very foundations of the earth. As the weeks turn into months, the rumors solidify into a hard, cold reality that you feel in the tightening of your chest. You find yourself standing on the great southern causeway, the wind whipping your quilted cotton armor, the salt spray of the lake stinging your eyes. The sight before you is something no song or poem could have prepared you for. There are creatures approaching, massive, four-legged beasts that carry the pale men upon their backs. The sound of their movement is a rhythmic thumping that vibrates through the stone beneath your sandals, a heavy metallic clatter that sounds like 1,000 copper bells ringing at once. These beasts are not like the deer or the dogs you know. They are tall, powerful, and their eyes hold a wild rolling fire. You feel a primal shiver move down your spine, a slow ripple of cold that settles in the small of your back as you realize that the rules of the hunt have changed forever. The first time you see their armor up close, it is a revelation of light and shadow. It is not the soft, colorful feathers of the coyote or the jaguar, nor the intricate beadwork of the nobility. It is a hard, grey shell, a skin of iron that reflects the world around it in distorted, silvered images. You watch as an arrow fired from a nearby rooftop strikes the chest of one of these men, only to skip off with a sharp metallic ping, falling uselessly into the dust. A slow, heavy realization settles over you. Your obsidian, sharp enough to shave a hair from your arm, is brittle. It is a blade of frozen night designed to bite deep into flesh and bone, but against this cold grey sun metal, it shatters like glass against a mountain. You feel the ache in your shoulders as you grip your weapon tighter, the wood of the handle feeling suddenly fragile in your grasp. The siege begins not with a roar, but with a slow, suffocating pressure. The causeways, once the arteries of life that brought food and fresh water into the heart of the city, become the primary theatres of a desperate defence. You spend your nights crouched behind low stone barricades, the smell of wood smoke and damp earth thick in your nostrils. The stars above are the same stars you have watched your entire life, but they seem further away now, colder and more indifferent to the struggle below. You find yourself missing the simple exhaustion of the harvest or the rhythmic grace of the ritual dance. Now the exhaustion is different. It is a deep, marrow-deep fatigue that comes from staying awake through the small hours, listening for the splash of a paddle or the clink of metal against stone. As the sun rises over the volcanoes, casting a long golden light across the valley, you see the strangers' weapons of fire. They are long black tubes that breathe smoke and thunder, tearing through the ranks of your brothers with a sound that shatters the morning peace. You watch as the stone walls of the city, built with such care and precision by your grandfathers, crumble under the invisible force of these iron balls. The air becomes choked with a grey, sulphurous haze that burns the back of your throat and makes your eyes water. You find a strange, quiet resolve in the midst of this chaos. You are a Jaguar Warrior, a protector of the sun, and even as the world shifts and fractures around you, the duty remains. You move through the narrow alleys of the city, your feet knowing every dip and curve in the stone, using the shadows to your advantage. The fighting on the causeways is a slow, grinding process. You find yourself standing waist-deep in the cool water of the lake, the silt squelching between your toes as you attempt to overturn the heavy wooden boats the strangers have built. The water is a comfort, a familiar embrace in a world that has become unrecognizable. You feel the pull of the current against your legs, the weight of your wet cotton armor dragging at your movements. Nearby, a friend from your kalpuli calls out a signal, and for a moment the old coordination returns. You move as one, a coordinated strike of obsidian and wood, pushing back against the metal-clad invaders. In these moments, the fear recedes into a quiet, focused hum in your ears. There is only the breath in your lungs, the tension in your muscles, and the singular goal of holding the line for one more hour, one more sunset. But the strangers are not alone. They have brought with them the people of Tlaxcala and others who have long chafed under the tribute demanded by the Triple Alliance. You see faces that look like your own, eyes that hold the same history, but they are turned against you. The betrayal is a dull ache in your heart, deeper than any wound from a metal blade. You watch as the beautiful gardens of the city are trampled, the flowers crushed into the mud by 1,000 marching feet. The smell of jasmine and damp earth is replaced by the scent of decay and the acrid tang of burnt thatch. You find yourself retreating further into the heart of the city toward the great temple, the center of your universe. The nights are the hardest. The city, once a place of vibrant music and bustling markets, is now a place of hushed whispers and the low moans of the sick. A new shadow has fallen over Tenochtitlan, a shadow that does not come from the sky, but from within the blood. People are falling ill with a fever that covers their skin in angry red sores. You feel the heat of it in your own forehead sometimes, a phantom warmth that makes you shiver in the cool night air. You sit in the darkness of your doorway, watching the moon reflect in the stagnant pools of water in the street. The quiet is profound. It is the silence of a world holding its breath, waiting to see if the sun will truly rise again. And yet, even in the shadow of change, there is a lingering beauty. You watch a small bird, a hummingbird with feathers of iridescent green, hover over a wilted flower in a courtyard. Its wings are a blur of motion, a tiny defiance against the stillness of the siege. You find yourself breathing in rhythm with its heartbeat, feeling a strange, detached peace. The city may be crumbling, the metal men may be at the gates, and the old ways may be fading like the light at dusk. But the earth remains. The lake still ripples under the wind. The mountains still stand guard over the valley, their peaks dusted with the white of eternal snow. You lean your head back against the cool stone of the wall, closing your eyes for just a moment. The weight of your responsibilities, the fear of the unknown, the ache of your tired limbs, they all begin to soften, melting into the vast, quiet history of this place. You are a part of this land, as much as the obsidian and the eagle, and whatever comes with the dawn, you will meet it with the steady heart of a warrior who has seen the beauty of the world and knows its worth. The rhythm of your breathing is the only thing that remains steady as the world around you begins to fray at the edges. It is a strange thing to witness the slow unraveling of a universe you once thought was eternal. The air, which used to carry the sweet, heady scent of crushed marigolds and roasting maize, is now heavy and thick with the acrid bite of wood smoke and the grey drifting flakes of falling ash. It settles on your skin like a ghostly shroud, coating the intricate yellow and black feathers of your jaguar suit until the vibrant colours are muted, turned to the shade of a winter twilight. You stand upon the high, wide expanse of the Templo Mayor, the great temple that serves as the very heart of Tenochtitlan, and look out over a city that is being swallowed by the fog of war. Your feet, calloused and bare, press firmly against the smooth basalt stones of the summit. They are warm, holding on to the last remnants of a sun that seems to have retreated behind the clouds of smoke. Beneath you, the great staircases descend like a waterfall of stone into the plaza below, but the view is no longer one of bustling markets or rhythmic processions. Instead, you see the flicker of distant fires reflecting off the surface of the lake, and you hear the low rolling thunder of a storm that has no rain. It is the sound of a city fighting for its breath. You feel the weight of your Macuahuitl in your hand, the wooden handle worn smooth by the grip of your palm, its weight familiar and grounding. Each piece of obsidian embedded in its side is a dark, glassy tooth, sharp enough to part the air itself. As you stand there, a strange sense of quietude settles over you, a calm that exists only in the center of a tempest. You remember the first time you climbed these steps as a young boy, your heart hammering against your ribs with a mix of awe and terror. Then the temple was a mountain of white lime, gleaming so brightly under the midday sun that it hurt to look at it directly. Now the white is stained with the soot of 1,000 small fires, and the air is filled with the frantic beating of wings as the birds of the valley seek refuge from the haze. You adjust the heavy jaguar headpiece that rests atop your own, the wooden frame lined with cotton and fur, and you feel the familiar pressure against your brow. It is a weight you have carried for many years, a symbol of your status and your duty. But today it feels different. Today it feels like a part of your own body, an extension of your spirit that refuses to break. The silence is broken by the sharp, metallic ring of steel against stone somewhere on the lower tiers. It is a sound that does not belong in this world, a cold, piercing noise that cuts through the organic sounds of the city like a knife through silk. You move toward the edge of the platform, your movements slow and deliberate, conserving the strength that remains in your aching limbs. You watch as the figures below move through the swirling smoke, their metal breastplates catching the flickering light of the fires, looking like strange silver beetles crawling up the sacred mountainside. When your obsidian blade meets their armor, the sound is not a thud or a slice, but a high-pitched shatter. You can feel the vibration travel up your arm as the volcanic glass, forged in the fires of the earth, breaks against the iron forged in lands you will never see. Each fragment that falls away is a piece of the old world being sacrificed to the new, a sparkling rain of black diamonds scattering across the blood-stained stone. The smoke grows thicker now, weaving between the pillars of the shrines dedicated to Huitzilopochtli and Tlaloc. It stings your eyes, making them water, but you do not look away. You breathe in the scent of the burning city, the smell of cedar wood, of dried chili peppers, of the very paper scrolls that held the history of your people now turning to blackened flakes in the wind. It is a heavy, somber perfume that fills your lungs and slows your heart. You find yourself noticing the smallest details in the midst of the chaos, the way a single turquoise bead has rolled into a crack in the floor, the way the light catches the iridescent green of a quetzal feather caught in a nearby brazier, the way the wind whistles through the gaps in the stone carvings of the feathered serpent. These things are beautiful, and their beauty is sharpened by the knowledge that they are fleeting. You lean momentarily against a carved stone railing, the relief of a serpent's coil beneath your fingers. The stone is rough and ancient, carved by hands that have long since returned to the earth. You think of the generations of warriors who stood where you stand now, men who watched the sun rise over the volcanoes and felt the same cool breeze on their faces. You are a link in a chain that stretches back into the deep, misty reaches of time, and though the chain is being pulled taut, it has not yet snapped. There is a profound dignity in the defense of one's home, a quiet pride that transcends the fear of the end. You are not just fighting for a city of stone and lime, you are fighting for the memory of the lake, for the sound of the flutes in the evening, for the way the light hits the water at dawn. The ash continues to fall, a soft and silent snow that covers the world in a uniform grey. It masks the distinctions between the rich and the poor, the warrior and the priest, the victor and the vanished. Under this layer of dust, everyone is the same, just shadows moving through a dream. You take a slow, deep breath, tasting the grit on your tongue, and you feel a strange sense of gratitude for the life you have led. You have walked the causeways of the greatest city in the world. You have worn the skin of the jaguar and spoken the language of the gods. You have seen the markets filled with gold and feathers, and you have heard the songs of the poets who spoke of the transience of life, comparing our time on earth to the brief blossoming of a flower. As you turn back toward the center of the platform, the smoke parts for a brief moment, revealing the distant peaks of the mountains that surround the valley. They are silent and indifferent to the struggles of men, their snow-capped summits glowing with a pale, ethereal light. They have seen empires rise and fall, and they will remain long after the fires of Tenochtitlan have cooled. This thought does not bring you sadness, but rather a sense of peace. You are a part of a larger cycle, a great wheel that turns with the slow, inevitable motion of the stars. Your role in this moment is to stand firm, to be the obsidian that shatters, to be the jaguar that refuses to hide. You feel the ache in your back, the soreness in your shoulders where the weight of your shield has pulled at the muscles for hours. You shift your stance, feeling the grit of the ash beneath your soles, and you prepare yourself for the next wave of movement. There is no hurry now. The world has slowed down, the roar of the battle fading into a dull, rhythmic hum that matches the beating of your heart. You are a warrior of the sun, and even as the shadows lengthen and the air grows cold, you carry the warmth of your people within you. The great temple holds you up, its massive stones providing a foundation that even the strongest steel cannot easily shake. The sky above is a bruised purple, the smoke blending with the coming night to create a horizon that feels infinite and intimate all at once. You watch a single spark rise from the plaza below, drifting upward on a thermal, dancing and spiraling until it disappears into the dark. It is a small thing, a tiny point of light in a vast darkness, but it is bright, and it is brave. You follow its journey until your eyes can no longer track it, and then you turn your gaze back to the stairs. The defense of the temple is not just a matter of strength, it is a matter of presence. To be here, to witness this, to refuse to bow, that is the final victory of the Jaguar. As the night deepens, the fires below seem to burn with a more intense clarity, casting long, flickering shadows that dance against the walls of the shrines. You stand amongst these shadows, a silent guardian in a city of ghosts, waiting for the dawn that will inevitably come, even if it brings a world you no longer recognize. For now, there is only the cool stone, the smell of the smoke, and the steady, unyielding beat of your heart in the silence of the heights. The weight of the Macuahuitl in your hand feels different now, less like a weapon of war and more like a heavy, familiar limb that has grown from your own body through years of discipline and ritual. You run a thumb over the edge of one obsidian tooth, feeling the microscopic sharpness that can slice through the very air, yet your touch is light, almost reverent. It occurs to you, as you stand atop the great temple, that while the stones of this city may one day crumble and the canals may fill with the dust of centuries, the strength that placed them here does not belong to the earth alone. It is a current, a vibration that moves through your blood, inherited from ancestors who saw the world not as a static thing to be owned, but as a flickering flame to be tended. You realize that being an Ocelotl is not merely about the skin you wear or the rank you hold. It is an internal geography, a landscape of the soul that remains unmapped by any conqueror. The air grows thinner and colder at this height, and you draw your quilted armor tighter against your chest, feeling the coarse cotton weave rub against your skin. There is a profound peace in the understanding that everything, every empire, every flower, every heartbeat is governed by the law of the 5 suns. You have been taught since you were a small child, sitting on the reed mats of the Kalmakak, that creation and destruction are not enemies, but 2 hands of the same God, pulling at the thread of time. This knowledge does not make you weary. Instead, it brings a slow, grounding comfort. The fear of ending evaporates when you accept that you are part of a cycle as predictable as the migration of the birds or the blooming of the dahlia. You look out over the dark expanse of Lake Texcoco, where the water reflects the stars so perfectly that it feels as though the city is floating in the center of the heavens, suspended between what was and what will be. Your muscles ache with a dull, rhythmic throb, a reminder of the day's long patrol and the many stairs you have climbed, but it is a satisfied ache, the kind that anchors you to the present moment. You think of the legacy you carry, not in gold or in land, but in the way you move through the world with intentionality and courage. The spirit of the Jaguar is not found in the roar, but in the silence of the hunt, in the patience of the wait, and in the absolute presence of the mind. Even if the murals are whitewashed and the songs of the poets are hushed by the wind, this essence, this Mexica spirit, is woven into the very mud of the chinampas and the salt of the water. It is an enduring resonance that will linger in the valley long after the last warrior has laid down his blade, a ghost note in the music of the land that future generations will feel in their bones without knowing why. As you stand there, the smell of wood smoke from 1,000 hearths rises to meet you, a warm and domestic scent that speaks of tortillas being flipped on clay griddles and families huddling together for warmth. It is a humble smell, a human smell, and it reminds you that for all the grandeur of the gods and the terror of the obsidian edge, life is made of these small, soft moments. You close your eyes for a second, letting the cool night breeze dry the sweat on your brow, and you feel the immense, ancient heartbeat of the earth beneath the soles of your feet. You are a guardian of this rhythm, a steward of the transition between the light and the dark. The empire may be a dream of stone, but your spirit is the waking reality, a spark of the eternal fire that no shadow can truly extinguish. The shadows of the shrines seem to stretch and yawn, reaching out toward the distant mountains that ring the valley like a crown of jagged obsidian. You watch the way the light from the braziers catches the iridescent feathers of a discarded headdress nearby, a shimmering green that reminds you of the deep jungle where your namesake roams. In the jungle, the jaguar does not mourn the falling of a tree or the drying of a stream. It simply moves with the change, finding a new path through the ferns. You find yourself adopting this same fluid grace in your mind. The events of the world, the shifts in power, the arrival of strangers, these are but ripples on the surface of a very deep and very old pond. Beneath the ripples, the water remains still and dark and full of life. You feel that stillness settling into your own limbs, smoothing out the tension in your shoulders and the furrow in your brow. There is a certain dignity in being the one who watches while others sleep. You are the witness to the closing of a chapter, and though the ink may be dark, the parchment of history is vast. You think of the children sleeping in the neighborhoods below, their dreams filled with the stories of heroes and the laughter of the marketplace, and you realize that your purpose is to hold this space for them, to ensure that the transition into the unknown is met with a steady hand and an unblinking eye. The legacy of the warrior is not found in the tally of his victories, but in the quality of his silence. It is found in the way he honors the earth that sustains him and the ancestors who whisper to him in the rustle of the maize leaves. You are a bridge between the physical world of the city and the spiritual world of the stars, and as long as you stand firm, the connection remains unbroken. As the night continues its slow, majestic crawl toward the dawn, you find yourself reflecting on the nature of strength. It is not the strength of the mountain, which eventually wears away under the persistence of the rain, but the strength of the river, which finds its way around every obstacle by simply being itself. Your life as a Jaguar warrior has been a long lesson in this kind of persistence. You have learned to find beauty in the sharpness of the obsidian, in the heat of the sun, and in the cold clarity of the midnight air. This beauty is your shield, a protection that no physical weapon can pierce. It is the realization that you are exactly where you are meant to be, a vital part of a grand unfolding tapestry that is far too large for any one person to see in its entirety. The city of Tenochtitlan, with its whitewashed walls and its vibrant markets, feels like a living, breathing organism, and you are its pulse. You can feel the collective breath of the thousands of people below, a soft sigh that rises and falls with the tide of the lake. In this moment, the distinctions between the past, the present, and the future seem to blur and fade. You are every warrior who has ever stood on this height, and you are every soul that will ever walk these paths in the centuries to come. The spirit of the Ocelotl is a golden thread that runs through the heart of the valley, connecting the ancient clay to the modern air. You take a deep, slow breath, tasting the salt and the smoke and the dampness of the night, and you feel a profound sense of gratitude for the journey that has brought you to this place. As the stars begin to pale in the east, signaling the approach of a new day, you do not feel the weight of what is coming. Instead, you feel a lightness, a readiness to meet whatever the sun reveals. The stone beneath your feet is solid, the air in your lungs is cool, and the spirit in your heart is undimmed. You are a part of the land as much as the maguey plants and the volcanic rock, and the land does not forget its own. The legacy of the Mexica is not written in books that can be burned, but in the very shape of the mountains and the color of the sky at twilight. You stand as a testament to that endurance, a silent guardian whose watch never truly ends, but simply changes form. For now, there is only the peace of the high places, the rhythm of your own breathing, and the quiet, steady strength of a heart that knows its home. The smell of damp earth and cooling stone rises from the terrace beneath your feet, a scent that has anchored you to this valley since the first time you held a practice spear as a young boy. It is the fragrance of the world settling into itself, a slow exhalation of the soil that has fed your people and buried your ancestors. You feel the heavy cotton of your warrior's mantle resting against your shoulders, a weight that no longer feels like a burden, but like a second skin. A familiar embrace that tells you the labor of the day is complete. Your muscles, once coiled with the explosive energy required of a jaguar, now begin to soften, responding to the deepening violet of the sky. As you look toward the horizon, the twin peaks of the great volcanoes rise like silent deities, their snow-capped summits catching the final dying embers of the light. Popocatépetl stands tall and resolute, a plume of wood-smoke-colored vapor trailing from his crest, while Iztaccíhuatl lies beside him in her eternal frozen slumber, the white woman draped in a shroud of lavender and pale blue. There is a profound stillness in the way they watch over the valley, a sense of time that stretches far beyond the brief flicker of a human life. You watch as the orange fire of the sun dips behind their jagged shoulders, casting long, cool shadows that stretch across the basin like the fingers of a god reaching out to tuck the city into bed. The air begins to sharpen, losing the humid warmth of the afternoon, and taking on the crisp, thin clarity of the high altitudes. You draw a deep breath, feeling the chill settle in your lungs, and find that the heat of the battle fever and the intensity of the city's commerce have finally evaporated. Down below, the great temple is a dark silhouette against the fading glow, its massive staircases appearing like a ladder to the stars. The white stucco of the palaces and the lime-washed walls of the schools begin to shimmer with a ghostly radiance, reflecting the last of the ambient light before the torches are lit. The great lake, Texcoco, which seemed like a bustling highway of canoes only an hour ago, has returned to a state of glass-like perfection. The water is no longer blue or green, but a deep, bruised purple that mirrors the transition of the heavens. You can see the faint ripples where a lone fisherman paddles toward the shore, his silhouette a tiny rhythmic dot on the vast expanse. The sound of the water lapping against the stone dikes is a soft, repetitive pulse, a heartbeat that belongs to the city itself. Everything is slowing down. The shouting of the vendors in the marketplace has faded into a distant hum, and the rhythmic thumping of the drums from the temples has softened into a low, vibrating drone that you feel in your bones more than you hear with your ears. You begin to walk, your sandals clicking softly against the volcanic rock of the walkway. This is a path you have trodden 1,000 times, yet tonight it feels like a journey through a dream of the past. You pass by the gardens where the medicinal herbs are grown, their scents of crushed mint and bitter marigold hanging heavy in the cool evening mist. You remember the city, not just as it is now, but as it was in the stories of your grandfather, a place that rose from the reeds and the mud through sheer will and the favor of the stars. Every stone you pass, every carved serpent and feathered relief is a word in a long, epic poem that you have spent your life writing with your own actions. The golden age of Tenochtitlan feels tangible here, in the quiet between the breaths of the wind. It is present in the sophisticated engineering of the aqueducts that bring fresh water from Chapultepec, and in the orderly rows of the Chinampas, the floating gardens that feed the thousands who call this island home. You think of the artisans who are, at this very moment, putting away their jade chisels and their featherwork needles, their hands tired but their spirits satisfied. You think of the other warriors, your brothers in the House of Eagles and the House of Jaguars, who are also unlacing their armor and washing the paint from their faces, preparing for a night of restorative rest. There is a profound sense of belonging that washes over you as the first few stars begin to pierce the velvet canopy above. You are a part of this intricate machine, a single feather in the great headdress of the empire. The cooling air carries the faint, sweet smell of copal incense burning in a nearby shrine, a reminder that the spiritual world is never more than a heartbeat away. You stop for a moment at a high vantage point, looking back at the maze of canals that weave through the districts, now illuminated by the flickering orange dots of household fires. It looks like a constellation fallen to earth, a mirror of the sky that reflects the ambition and the beauty of your people. The memory of the city's glory is not a heavy thing to carry. It is a source of quiet strength. You feel the ache in your back and the stiffness in your knees, the physical toll of a life lived in service to the sun, and you embrace it. It is the price of being a guardian, the cost of ensuring that the sun rises again tomorrow. As the darkness deepens, the outlines of the buildings blur, and the city begins to lose its sharp edges, becoming a soft, dark shape nestled in the protective arms of the mountains. The volcanoes are now mere shadows against a sky of deep indigo, silent sentinels that have seen empires rise and fall, yet remain unchanged. You find yourself moving toward your own quarters, guided by the familiar rhythm of the city's evening transition. The sound of a distant flute drifts on the breeze, a thin, melancholy melody that speaks of ancient things, of the wind moving through the reeds and the spirits that dwell in the deep water. It is a song of homecoming. You feel the weight of your achievements and the weight of your duties slipping away, replaced by a simple, profound gratitude for the peace of this hour. The world is retreating into the shadows, and you are retreating with it, moving toward the sanctuary of sleep. The Valley of Mexico is a cradle, and tonight it holds you with a gentleness that belies its power. You are a Jaguar Warrior, a master of the obsidian blade. But in the twilight you are also a son of the earth, weary and ready for the stillness. The memory of the golden city will be there when you wake, etched into the stone and the light. But for now, it is enough to simply exist in the cooling air. You watch the last sliver of light vanish behind the western peaks, leaving only the soft glow of the stars and the quiet breathing of the lake. The day is done. The watch is passed to the night. And as you prepare to close your eyes, you know that you are home, held fast in the heart of the world. The weight of the Macuahuitl, that heavy wooden blade lined with its sharp teeth of volcanic glass, finally leaves your hand as you lean it against the cool, lime-plastered wall of your sleeping quarters. Your fingers, calloused from years of gripping the hilt and feeling the vibration of the strike, now feel strangely light, almost as if they are floating in the dimness of the room. You can feel the faint, lingering heat in your palms, a ghost of the day's exertion, but it is fading now, replaced by the soothing chill of the evening air that drifts through the entryway. You reach up to unfasten the ties of your eagle-feathered headdress, feeling the sudden release of pressure as the weight is lifted from your brow. The heavy cotton armor, padded with brine-soaked salt to stiffen it against the bite of arrows, is unlaced and set aside, leaving your skin to meet the velvet touch of the night breeze. There is a profound sense of relief in this shedding of the warrior's skin, a transition from the public symbol of the empire's strength to the private reality of a man who is simply tired and who has earned his rest. As you lower yourself onto the woven reed mat, the Tlatelolco, you feel the familiar texture of the fibers beneath your back, firm and grounding. The ache in your shoulders, born from carrying the circular shield and the heavy expectations of your lineage, begins to dissolve into the stillness of the floor. You are no longer a Jaguar Warrior, a predator of the sun, but a soul returning to the quiet rhythms of the earth. The sounds of Tenochtitlan have softened into a low, rhythmic hum. The distant splash of a paddle in the canal, the rustle of the maize husks in a neighbour's courtyard, and the faint, rhythmic chirping of crickets that seems to pulse in time with your own heartbeat. You realize that your life has been a long series of movements, a dance of obsidian and fire, but in this moment, the only movement that matters is the slow, steady rise and fall of your chest. You think of the journey that awaits every warrior, the path that follows the sun as it dives into the underworld to battle the darkness. Perhaps, when the final sleep eventually claims you, your soul will take the form of a hummingbird or a bright-winged butterfly, destined to follow the sun through the heavens for 4 years before returning to the flowers of the earth. Or perhaps you will wander the 9 levels of Mictlan, the place of the dead, guided by a loyal companion through the cold winds and the obsidian storms until you reach the place of eternal rest. But those journeys are for another time, a distant horizon that does not concern you tonight. Tonight, the only journey is the short distance between wakefulness and the deep, dark waters of sleep. The gods have received their due, the city is secure, and the stars are hanging like silver fruit in the branches of the world tree. You can smell the lingering scent of copal incense, a sweet, resinous smoke that clings to the rafters, acting as a bridge between the physical world and the realm of the spirit. It mixes with the damp, earthy smell of the lake and the faint aroma of wood smoke from a cooking fire that has long since burned down to embers. Your limbs feel heavy, as if they are being gently pulled down into the very foundations of the island, merging with the stone and the sediment of the lake bed. The boundaries of your body seem to blur. You are no longer just a man lying on a mat, but a part of the house, a part of the city, and a part of the valley itself. The darkness of the room is not a void, but a soft blanket, tucked around you by the hands of the night. The memory of the battlefield, the flash of jade and the roar of the conch shells feels like a dream you had a lifetime ago. It is muted now, stripped of its urgency and its sharp edges. Even the pride you felt when you were first awarded the jaguar skin feels distant, a garment you have outgrown in the quietude of this hour. You find yourself focusing on the small, rhythmic sensations of the present, the way the air feels cool against your ankles, the slight roughness of the woven mat against your heels, and the deep, resonant silence that exists between each breath. The world is vast, stretching out toward the 4 corners of the universe, but your world has shrunk to the size of this room, this mat, and this moment of absolute peace. As your eyes drift shut, the last thing you see is the faint, flickering reflection of a star on the surface of a water jar in the corner. It is a tiny point of light, steady and unwavering, a reminder that even in the deepest dark there is a spark of the divine. You let out a long, slow sigh, releasing the last remnants of the day's tension, and feel yourself slipping into the current of the night. The obsidian blade is still, the shield is at rest, and the warrior is finally, truly home. You are drifting now, floating on the black waters of the lake, carried by a gentle tide toward a place where there are no battles, no duties, and no time. There is only the breath, the dark and the infinite healing embrace of sleep. The rhythm of the city's heart slows down to match your own, a steady, low thrumming that echoes through the earth and the water. You are safe. You are held. You are part of the eternal cycle of the sun and the moon, the light and the shadow. And as you sink deeper into the soft folds of unconsciousness, you know that the dawn will come when it is ready. But for now, the night is yours, and it is beautiful. The stillness deepens, wrapping you in a cocoon of silence so profound that you can almost hear the stars turning in their courses. You let go of the last thread of thought, the last image of the golden city, and surrender to the tide. Deep, heavy, and silent, you fall into the rest of the ages,